Hey guys, it's Andrew Campanella, president of National School Choice Week, and today I want to rant about something. I want to complain with you about the constant, the incessant, the unending use of jargon, buzzwords, acronyms, and other complicated terms in K-12 education. I'm Andrew Campanella, president of National School Choice Week. We raise awareness about all of the different education options out there for families. Traditional public schools, public charter schools, public magnet schools, private schools, online schools, and homeschooling. All throughout the year, our team researches and develops the nation's most comprehensive, unbiased, and practical resources to help moms and dads find schools and learning environments that meet their kids' needs. Conversations about K-12 education are so important, and they should be inviting to families, not just limited to policymakers and academics. They should not be intimidated. They should not be confusing. The reality is, using too much jargon, using too many buzzwords, does intimidate people. It does confuse people. It makes people think that maybe they're not smart enough to be participating in discussions about their children's well-being. Well, I'm here to tell you, moms and dads, that you are not only smart enough to participate in discussions about your children's education, you are the experts on your children and their education. You know better than anybody else what type of environment is right for your child. You know better than anyone on this planet whether your child is learning, thriving, succeeding, or happy. And so I want to encourage you to break through the jargon, break through the buzzwords, break through the acronyms, and have the conversations and never be afraid to ask what something means. And to help you do that, to help you navigate rather than memorize all this complicated jargon, our team at School Choice Week has put together an incredible resource, and that is an ultimate glossary of education terms. Frankly, I learned a ton looking at this the first time. I realized that there are so many words, so many terms, so many acronyms, so much jargon that I hear, but frankly, I didn't really understand what it meant. Now I do. Still not memorizing it, as you'll see. And so what our team has done is they have asked me to read through some of the terms that parents search for the most so that you can realize a lot of these terms might sound fancy, they might sound complicated, but they're actually, when they're explained in simple terminology in plain English, really easy to grasp. So let's start. Have you heard the term differentiated instruction strategies? What is differentiated instruction? Good question. Sounds very convoluted. In reality, I want you to think about a classroom. Let's say there are 4 kids in the classroom, small classroom. You're learning science. One kid learns science best by reading it in a book. Another kid learns science best when a teacher teaches and speaks aloud. The third student learns science best from a science experiment. And the fourth student learns the most by watching a video or looking at pictures. When a teacher wants to make sure that all the kids in that classroom truly acquire the knowledge, truly understand the lesson, he or she will make sure that they talk about it, that they have kids read about it, that they have kids do the science experiment, and they have kids look at pictures and videos because they are differentiating their lesson to meet the needs of all the kids in the class. That is what differentiated instruction means. The process that teachers go through to put together their lessons to make sure that every kid in the class with his or her unique ways of learning actually learn. Okay, what is a formative assessment? Formative assessments, they mean when a teacher checks in to make sure your daughter or son is learning throughout a lesson, as opposed to waiting until the end of a class or waiting for a big formal exam. Think of it more like quizzes or homework, things like that. They are formative assessments, figuring out whether a child is learning before moving on to the next lesson. What is scaffolding? You hear about this. Teachers are told that they need to be scaffolding their lessons. Well, scaffolding is actually a complicated term to mean the way we all learn. Here's how we learn. We take a base of knowledge, we take another step up and build on it, and we build on what we've learned together and move that up, learn something else, and learn even more, and finally at some point we're experts on things. That's what scaffolding is. It's basically like a ladder, the ladder of learning. Teachers have the complicated job of figuring out how to structure lessons and classes and courses in a way that actually helps kids build that base of knowledge so that it's strong enough they can step onto it and they can learn the next thing and the thing after that, and they feel confident in all the knowledge that they've acquired to that point. So that is what scaffolding is about. What is an LEA and an SEA? Okay, you hear these terms a lot when you're talking about education policy. An LEA is a local education agency. That's a school district or your school board. An SEA is a state education agency. That's the State Department of Education or the state school board. So LEA, local, SEA, state. Now, some terms that you might wonder about related to school choice. What is open enrollment? You hear this term a lot when it comes to education, but also healthcare. So are they similar? No, they're not. Open enrollment in education means that parents can choose a public school for their child regardless of whether it is in their zone. In most places across the country, you live in a specific zip code or zone, and you go to the neighborhood public school there, if that's what you want. In a majority of states, there are policies that let parents say, okay, I know I live in zone A, but I want to go to the public school that's in zone B. Or I know I live in this district, but I want to go to, or I want my child rather, to go to a school that's in a different district. Open enrollment is the set of policies that let parents, empower parents to make those choices. What is a voucher? A voucher is a scholarship. It allows families to take some financial aid to send their child to a private school of their choice, usually for families who cannot afford private school tuition. Lets them take a portion of the money that has been set aside for their child's education so that they can go to a qualifying private school that participates in the state's school choice, private school choice program. So that's what a voucher is. All of it means financial aid to help send your kids to a private school if that is your choice and you cannot otherwise afford it. What is a micro school? Sounds like a little school, and it kind of is. Usually a micro school is when parents work together to create a learning environment in their home where kids from multiple households participate. And sometimes they hire a tutor, sometimes they use an online education program. You can learn a lot more about micro schools and learning pods on our website. We have a whole ultimate guide to that. But that term, pretty much what it sounds like. Most of the times, micro schools are not regulated as schools by a state or locality. Sometimes, however, depending on some characteristics, they might be. 21st century skills. Yes, we hear this a lot, especially in debates about education policy. What are 21st century skills? What this means is skills that your kid will likely need when he or she looks for a job or moves forward in his or her career. I think this is kind of an outdated term. It was created in the 20th century. We're now 21 years into the 21st century, so we kind of know what these skills are. But still, when you hear 21st century skills, things your kid needs to learn in school so that they're prepared to go into college, into the workforce, and to be successful later in life, not just in school. And what is an appropriate education, a free and appropriate education? That's a great question. It's a great question because it's a term that is defined by law, a free and appropriate education, but it is interpreted differently by school districts and states all across the country. It primarily refers to the type of education that your child deserves to receive if he or she has special needs. And if you have questions about special education, we have a whole guide to special education on our website. I hope you will check it out because you want to make sure that your child with an individualized education plan, with an IEP, is getting an education that is truly appropriate to meet his or her exceptional needs. All right, so that's all the time I have for my rant and for these definitions, but I will tell you this: never feel apprehensive about starting a discussion about your child's education. Don't let buzzwords, jargon, acronyms, and confusing terminology turn you off or dissuade you from having that essential conversation about whether your daughter or son is successful in school. Have the conversation and never be afraid when somebody brings up something you don't understand to stop them politely and ask them to explain what they mean. That is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. You know what else is a sign of strength? Checking out our online glossary to education terms. I hope you'll check it out, and I hope you will share it with your friends, your family, and your colleagues. Thanks so much.